You ready, Greg?
I'm ready, Jay.
You're listening to The Success Paradigm with your hosts, Jay Atkins and Greg Gray.
All right. Welcome to the Success Paradigm. We are excited, super excited today. So we're going to a whole different level with our guest today, Miss Khaliah Guillory. So we're going to do I'm doing the formal introduction. I'm going to read gracefully through what I just read the bio a couple of times here, and I keep thinking, okay, there's a lot here. So let me make sure we give you your due, Khaliah. All right. Khaliah Guillory, the creative mind behind Nap Bar, is Khaliah Guillory. As a previous C-level executive at a Fortune 500 company that oversaw a $1 billion book of business and over 220 employees, she knows a thing or two about handling stress. An avid napper, yes, Guillory is obsessed with sleep so much she founded Nap Bar, the first of its kind white glove self-care napping experience in the world. Nap Bar offers communities and companies on-site and in-suite rest sanctuaries to help reduce sleep deprivation, increase mindfulness, and alertness. Nap Bar's mission is to turn sustainable rest into sustainable productivity for the health-conscious professionals, entrepreneurs, stay-at-home parents, and travelers. Nap Bar's beta test added over 2,000 users to the platform. Guillory has secured strategic partnerships with, but not limited to, Mercedes-Benz, Williams-Sonoma, and the WNBA. Guillory's vision for Nap Bar is to partner with international airports, sporting venues, hospitals, and corporations to provide rest experiences all over the world. In 2015, Guillory founded KOG and Company, a boutique firm that partners with corporations to transform human emotion through inclusion, equity, culture, wellness, and employee engagement experiences. Guillory is an award-winning speaker chosen to deliver the 2018 MBA commencement speech at the University of Houston downtown. She has been featured in a plethora of national media outlets, including Forbes, Huffington Post, Essence, Houston Business Journal, Fox News, ABC, and NBC, pretty much everywhere. It says respectively, I'm just going to say everywhere. That's just easier. In 2011, Guillory founded the Cynthia A. Guillory Foundation, CAG, to pay homage to her mother, Cynthia, who lost the fight against ALS, also known as Lou Gehrig's disease, in 2002. Guillory promised her mother to continue her legacy through the gift of giving and increase ALS awareness. Despite the global pandemic, CAG hosted the 9th annual Giving Tree, partnered with Walmart, raised nearly $16,000 in one night, and paid off over 130 layaways for underrepresented families in Houston, Texas. I know a little something about layaways back in the day. That's a meaningful thing. Guillory was born and raised in Port Arthur, Texas. She is a lover of 80s music. I'm telling you, you are checking so many boxes here, Khaliah. Travel junkie, vinyl collector, obsessed with socks, sunglasses, and watches. She is a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, which means you are my wife's soror on top of everything else, and a recipient of the prestigious Houston Business Journal 40 Under 40 Award. Based on her philanthropy work in the community, Mayor Sylvester Turner, who I believe is an alpha, which is my bruh, declared October 29th as Khaliah O. Guillory Day. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Success Paradigm, Khaliah Guillory. We are thrilled to have you here.
Woo! I am oozing with gratitude. Thank you guys so much for having me, Jay and Greg. I'm honored. Seriously.
You are so very welcome. You know, I'm really excited, and I know we're not going to be talking a lot about sleep, but I'm sure it's going to come up somewhat in the podcast. And I will tell you, I just wrote a book and I discuss sleep. And I think that sleep is the number one thing for success. And I've heard so many successful people in books and speakers say the opposite. And they say you sleep when you die and all of these other things that they say. And I know that I'm a much better version of me when I have 7 to 8 hours of sleep a night. Like, it's that critical. And I also think it's why I look 30 years younger than Greg, because I sleep 7
out of the gate,
8 hours a night.
Boom.
Even though we're about 15 years apart, I still look double what I really am. So, but anyways, I'm really interested on this sleep expert thing because I think you can help a lot of people, and I know a lot of people have problems sleeping, but I do think that this podcast is so appropriate because I do think sleep is the number one ingredient for success. If you don't have it, you can't be on top of your game. So I think that you've are very intelligent for getting in this area and then tying it to success. So I think this is going to be a lot of fun for this podcast. So on the podcast, as I always introduce everyone, you don't know the questions, but what we want to dig into with you today, based on that amazing bio and what you've accomplished in such a short amount of time already, is everyone sees that accomplishment, right? Your bio is, hey, this is what I've done. But in that bio, people have no idea where you messed up, the mistakes that you made. What made you go in the direction that you're in right now? What were the failures? Who told you couldn't do it? So what we like to do on here is we like to get to know the story, because there's a lot of people in their story right now that might feel like giving up, that might feel like I can't accomplish my goals. And what I would like for them to hear from you is kind of those struggles, but also that success, because we all know that success does not exist without failure. And I want to hear about both. And I want to hear where it starts, right? If it starts, when you had this epiphany when you were 10, 15, 20, who kind of helped you with the epiphany? What's made you see the epiphany? And, where you are today. So where does that story start for you, Khaliah?
Geez, that story started early on. I often talk about 8-year-old Khaliah because I feel like sometimes she is the ultimate creator of my life. Like, she still runs a show every once in a while. And the reason why I have to go back to 8-year-old Khaliah is because that's really when this whole ideology of myself that I have to prove myself, like I have to win, I have to get, I have to do all the things that I need to, because, and you guys mentioned this earlier, right? This is Vegas. Like, we've been full on transparency here, right? I can share as much as I want. Yes. Is that, I was a love child, and so what that meant for me is that, and for those of you who are like, wait, what's a love child? Well, it means that one of my parents had a whole other family, and then I came along. And so I didn't learn this until maybe 5 years ago, when I really understood it and learned what it was. But now I was able to piece things together. Grow up with my father. Thank God my grandfather stepped up and raised me as if I was his own. But that's really when who I am was molded. It's like, you don't think I'm good enough to spend time or to love or to cherish, and I'm going to prove to you that I am. And, some of that is ego driven. Some of it is just who I am. Right. It's the innate leader that's inside of me. I played basketball pretty much my entire life up until until my knees blew out. And, for me, it's the discipline behind it. But to know me is to know that I struggle just like the rest of them. I battle with depression, and that whole, I had to start with to give you an idea of who I am as a love child, because that has played a huge role in who I have been up until 5 years ago, when I understood that I had to get out of my own way to really truly live the life that I wanted. And I'm not quoting a quote that's famous and that's going to get me a gazillion likes on comments or on Instagram. I'm quoting from real life. This is real life for me, right? And it's because I had realized that I was doing things and I was operating in a capacity where I was leading this facade. I was allowing my representative to go ahead of me and do things for me and be in the world for me. And the mask, as most people, the proverbial mask, as we often talk about, it was on and heavy, because I didn't want people to know that I really am insecure, because rejection in sales and corporate America, I'm good, but rejection in love and relationships, that's a big thing for me. And, I didn't want people to know that. And so because of that, in corporate America, I was somebody else outside of the rest of the world. So I happened to be a Black woman who also happens to be lesbian. And that lesbian piece was my mask. I didn't want, most people are like, well, I kind of already knew KG, like it wasn't that big of a secret. But in corporate America, like I didn't, because I had convinced myself, I told my story. And I think so many of us do this, where we back ourselves into a wall. We convince ourselves with these elusive stories that aren't even true, that they won't love me if I really show them who I really am. If I show up as my authentic self, everywhere I go, there's no way I'm going to get best friends or maintain or get married or have kids or have a family or, be this entrepreneur that I've dreamed about. And I'm here as the poster child to say, yes, you can. You just got to show up as you are. And I think we live in this braggadocious culture. Jay, you kind of hit on this a little bit, where, we want everything to be glitzy and glammy. You look on Instagram, people are posting jets, but the behind the scenes, people don't realize, like, they're not really flying anywhere. They just booked a jet for an hour for a photo op. Like, come on now.
Right.
Like, no, like,
Right.
my head is down and I'm grinding in the dark. But, some of this, going back to that original question, man, it's getting out of my own way. It's showing up in my true self, a holistic approach to living. It's making sure that I'm tackling all of my intentions, and the business will come. Nat Bar came, KOG and Company came, being able to raise and pay off over 130 Lelways. Greg, you talked about, I was a product of Lelways, so I know exactly what that feel like and what that means, especially in a pandemic. That's crazy talk, but I can't talk about the businesses before I talk about that, because this is how I was able to get to the business and for it to be successful, because it came from a true, authentic space.
So that was a lot you just dropped on the table right there. And I hope everybody was paying really, really close attention, because there's what jumped out at me in the middle of all of that wonderfulness is the idea, and we talk about this a lot on the success paradigm, that we're constantly evolving. And if people remembered your bio that I just read, a lot of that stuff happened before 5 years ago. And here you are, being who we expected you to be, because when Megan told us about you, we kind of knew that even as recent as 5 years ago, that there is still an evolution that is taking place. There's still a finding myself and living into my authentic self. I have to tell you that your story touches me in a couple different ways, because my daughter is on a similar journey. And really just probably in the last 5 or 6 years, played basketball at Jacksonville University too. So that's why athletes love naps. I learned that a long time ago, because you get them, you take one, you're on the bus, you get you a nap. That's wherever you get.
If you didn't get a nap, you're not right.
That's exactly right. It's just, you get it when you can get it. But it actually makes me a little emotional when you talk about, the mask that people have been wearing masks a long time before the pandemic. We just didn't know they had them on. And but the living into your authentic self, no matter who you are, is such a freeing thing. But it is also something that terrifies a lot of people, no matter what their authentic self is. I want to be a musician, but I'm working, over at this place where I'm doing this, but it's not really where my heart is. But if I tell them I want to be a musician, they're going to be like, oh, really? You need a real job. All these things. So out of the gate, you have lived up to your billing when it comes to authenticity. And that means a lot. You touched a lot of people with what you just shared.
Wow, Greg. Thank you. Thank you for that.
Yes. So it's a really big deal. So I followed that with a little bit of a question. So that getting to where, where Khaliah really lives versus, where she kind of rents property. What switch flipped for you that said, and again, this is not just about being a member of the community. This is bigger than that.
Period.
Yes, it's just a period thing. And I think people lose that a lot. My daughter taught me that, by the way.
I agree, because it's a humanity thing.
It's humanity thing. So when did the switch flip where you said, you know what? Okay, I'm going.
Mask off.
Yes.
Game on, baby.
Yes.
I remember it as if it was just yesterday. I just got goosebumps. So, and just before I get into that, I just also want to say for someone that's watching that, my closet was my sexual orientation. And I think oftentimes we demystify the ideology that our closets can also be socioeconomic status, like where we grew up, our religious beliefs, military status. I mean, there's so many things on the dimensions of diversity that I think people get caught up on, because they think it's just race, age, and sexual orientation. No, it's so many other different factors.
You're right.
But to go to your question, Greg, gosh, let me paint a story. Gosh, how much time do we have for this? Like, I could probably talk to y'all all night. So I started my career at Wachovia Bank. I was a snotty nose, wet behind the ears banker. I had no idea what I was doing. They hired me by the grace of God, and I didn't realize, because my degree is in communication. Like, my goal was to be an on-air personality back in Florida. And then my mother got sick and was diagnosed with ALS. And when I was told it was a terminal disease, it was my senior year in college. And so I had to make a decision. At the time, I was team captain of the women's basketball team. We were having the season of our lives. And I had to, in that moment, that's when I realized the importance of following your heart and your gut. And family will always be my number one priority. Is that I went and talked to my coach, said, hey, my mom's pretty much is dying. I need to be able to go back and forth between here and Houston or Port Arthur to see her. And they allowed for me to stay on scholarship. And when I was in town, I went to practice. When I wasn't, I wasn't. And it was that's when I really understood tribe, like tribal diversity and the importance of it. But I'm sure we'll unpack that here in a second. But that moment when the switch came on, it was snotty nose banker. I had just got on the next rung because I was focused, right? I'm a true athlete. Like, I list my goals out. Like, I'm going to get them by any means necessary. So I was climbing the corporate ladder, and I was promoted a couple of times. My goal was to make VP by 30. I had made it by 27. And my manager at the time, my leader at the time, came to me and said, hey, there's this thing called diversity and inclusion. I know you're big in that kind of thing. This is like 10, 12 years ago, before it became, you know what I mean? Yeah. A thing. And it should have been the thing all along, but that's a whole other episode. Mm-hmm. And he said, I want to nominate you for this position. So I was like, oh man, this is good. I just got promoted. Like, I literally felt like I was in it, right? Like, here I am. I still was in the closet. Like, it was all these things, but literally overnight, my income had doubled. Now next to my name is VP. Like, there's so many things that I was celebrating. And now I get to be on the diversity council and talk about what's important for a Black woman. And not realizing, like, I'm so multifaceted. It's more than just me being a Black woman in a male, stale, and pale dominated financial services industry.
Still is.
Yeah.
Still is. Let's be clear, right? Yeah. And so I was like, yeah, absolutely, let's go, without even getting more information. So the HR rep sends me the application. I'm filling out the application, and it goes to all of your dimensions of diversity. And then the first question was sexual orientation. I was like, that's none of your business. Why do you need to know that? And then so I called my sister, and I was like, I explained it to her. My sister is to love her. She's 8 years older than I am. So when our mother passed away, my sister became mom, because my mother passed away literally a couple of weeks after I turned 22 on my 22nd birthday. And so my sister, as mother, she said, I was like, I think I'm committing career suicide. Like, I just got promoted. My goal is to be the regional president, by 40. Like, I've got 13 more years to go. And I don't want to commit career suicide, because the people I will be surrounded with are C-suiters. They're at the C level. And that's where I want to go. I want to take their job. And they're not going to promote me if they know I'm gay. Like, it legit was a thing. I lost sleep about it. I think I lost 10 pounds. Like, no, it was the other way around. I probably gained 10 pounds because I'm an emotional eater. I was eating chicken wings and ice cream. But but then my sister said something so poignant, and she said, "Okay, if they don't want you based on your sexual orientation and who you love, and it negates everything you've done for this company," because at this point I was with the company for 5 years and had won wars, like I was killing my goals. She said, they don't want you based solely on your performance and what you're going to bring and add value to from your experiences through your lens. I don't want you working there anymore. And I was like, what? That's bold. You don't want me, right? Just like, did I just tell you my salary just like double overnight? Like, what do you mean? And that night I couldn't sleep, because the turmoil inside of me was fighting. Like, Khaliah O Guillory was fighting, like, oh my God, this is my chance to actually come out and be who I want to be. But Khaliah thought, like, no, you're going to be committing career suicide. So I thought about it. I prayed on it. I meditated. I called my sister again. I called the HR rep. I said, you sure you need to know this? Like, why do you need to know this? And she said, because we want people, we handpick folks to be on this board to represent the people that work for this company, and we want them to be comfortable to be who they are at work. And when she told me that, I was like, I got to do it. And the litmus test is if I don't get promoted anymore, now I know what this company really is about. So fast forward a month later, I went on, I filled out the application, and the very first exercise that we had as a group was to name your subgroups. And so they called out certain dimensions on the diversity wheel. Age, and if you're in this age group, come in the middle of the circle. If you identify as a woman, come in the middle of the circle. If you are Black, come into the, and then it was if you identify as LGBTQ, come into the circle. And I took a deep breath and walked into the circle and realized that I was not alone.
Wow.
Like really one of my really best buds at work was in the circle with me. And because we both were petrified and terrified of what perhaps could happen, neither one of us even talked about it, because I was the pro at pronouns, right? Someone asked, what are you guys doing? They knew I was in a relationship, but they never knew the name. And I always said they. It was before they was popular. I was fluent in my pronouns, and that's before pronouns became a real thing, right? And so it was always they, and they had to work this weekend, so I just kind of hung out. And when I tell you guys, that was the best decision that I made. My productivity improved, increased. I was able to connect more with my team. At that point, I was overseeing a $1 billion book of business, 220 employees I was responsible for. And so now, instead of me just coming in, I was always personable and asking about them, but now I was more forthcoming with them. So it's like, okay, G, what did you do for the weekend? I was like, oh yeah, my girlfriend and I, you want to see a picture of us? Like, it was just cool. I wasn't guarding my personal life, because I think from an emotional intelligence standpoint, people want to connect. People want to know what's going on in our lives in the workplace. And I tell you, the moment that happened, my whole world opened up. I had 2 closets before then, because one was I was shopping in the women's department to pretend my femininity and mask it when I was going to work. And then on the weekends, I had my androgynous closet. That's where I'm like really chill. And I was like, forget this. And I never forget, it was right after Hurricane Harvey, and people were posting how they lost all their items on social media. I was like, I have all these suits and shoes that I will never wear again. Why are they sitting in my closet? And it was just another cleansing for me. Like, you're getting rid of this stuff that's no longer you, because it represents who you aren't. I'm not that person. I never was. So it was another form of my mask, just hanging up in the closet for me to see.
Wow.
I'm really moved, but I didn't know. We don't really know any of this, right? This is why I love podcasts, is because the authenticity that comes out in here. And one of my best friends in the world that I've been friends with for over 20 years is gay, and I didn't know when I met him, and I was very, very judgmental when I was 25 years old, because I grew up in a small town, didn't know anything about it. And, as I got to know him and his journey, and, he came out when he was 31. For me, like 31 years of wearing a mask. When I hear you tell this story, it reminds me a lot of him. And you opened up with this journey, and then now you kind of explained the journey, which I love, and understand why the depression happened, why these certain things happened. And I think, gay or not gay, whatever, I mean, we go through things in our life, but I think for me, if I look in on your life and I look in on Chris's life, and you're able to have this massive success and come to this from that journey that you went on and wearing this mask. And, for 31 years, he was someone he wasn't, and he had to hide it to everyone. And when I think about that and all the success that he had, even in those 31 years, because he's a very successful human being. And then to hear you say, after I took the mask off, that's when I was able to be my authentic self. And that's the person, like, once I got to know who he was, like, if I would have judged him for being, a gay man and said I can't have a relationship with him, man, what I would have missed out on, what I would have learned. Like, and I just wish more people had that. But that is, I guess my point to this is, if you can have success, and this is a platform that you should stand on loud and clear as you speak. If you can have success, anybody can. Because what you had to go through in the time that you went through, because he's in the same time frame, right? It wasn't cool to be gay. You couldn't, I mean, corporate America judged you, especially white corporate America, old corporate America. If you can be successful, anybody can, because dealing with that is a difficult thing to deal with. So my question is this, because I hear this a lot, and I want to know what your definition of this. When you say get out of your own way, how did you get out of your own way? And how would you advise people? I mean, what is that exact? Like, give me like a roadmap, a GPS. If someone's in their way, what does that look like? And how did you get out of your own way?
Oh, that's such a good, powerful question. So I say you have to decide that what you want and what your, not just your purpose, what your divine purpose is, if it's enormous enough for you to get out of your way. Meaning, what is your why? What is going to be the thing that's going to get you out of bed on mornings when you simply don't want to? Right. And I transitioned and retired from corporate America November 2018. But what people don't understand is that I worked in corporate America for 2 additional years when I knew I was transitioning out of corporate America, because my why was that corporate America was financing my dreams. It was financing NAPBAR. It was financing my KOG and company. It was financing all those things. So what that meant is that I had to sacrifice as well. I had to sacrifice sleep sometimes. Not knowing, then I didn't know what I know now. Surely I would have done things a little differently back then, but I was working 85 plus hours a week at Wells Fargo. I was traveling 75% of the time, and on nights and on weekends is when I could work on my business and do research. And what else are you going to sacrifice? Getting out of your way means I was in $80,000 plus of debt, when I decided I was going to transition. But most people think like, holy smokes, 80 grand. Well, yeah, when you're making really good money and your bonus is pretty much half of that, then you cash flowing $80,000. But it's not until you realize, wait a minute, if I'm going into business and I need a 12 to 18 month at minimum runway, I can't cash flow $80,000. That's crazy. So then, you go into sacrifice mode. What did I do? I sold off. I had a small real estate investment portfolio. That's getting out of my way. I was holding on to the ideology of like, oh, it's sexy for me to say, oh, I have a small real estate investment portfolio. But the truth of the matter is it was a part of my retirement plan, because my goal when I had my mask on is that I was going to work in corporate America my entire life. And see, it wasn't until I woke up one morning and I realized, because I was at this intersection.
So let me ask you, I just want to interrupt you. So when you were in corporate America and you wanted to work there, was it a safety thing? Because you felt like you were really good in that area and you wanted to stay there in corporate America initially before you made this decision. But is that in your mind at the time, I'm going to stay in corporate America because it was the safe thing to do?
No, well, kind of what Greg alluded to earlier. It's like this is the dream job, right? Like people who come from where I come from, they're not vice presidents of a Fortune 100.
So it was identity. It was identity.
It was identity. It was the family piece of it, making my family proud. Like it's a culture thing, right? Mm-hmm. Like my family was so proud when I made VP. They were so proud when I got the scholarship to play basketball, to get a free education. And it was so many things. And I think it's a societal thing. Society tells us that we have to be a certain way and we have to make so much money and we have to be stable and we have to do all these things. But you still can achieve those things working for someone else, right? And you can still achieve those things working for yourself. Like, it just really depends. And I'm not saying that everyone should be an entrepreneur. We do need people in corporate America to help entrepreneurs move their agendas forward. But I know for me, I woke up that morning with a heavy chest because I was at the intersection of satisfaction no longer met my contribution. And I had the epiphany, whereas, oh, whoa, my ladder, as I was climbing each rung, every time I got promoted, I got to the next rung on the ladder, and I thought to myself, like, okay, when I get to this position, it will be it. I will be so happy and excited and everything will be good. And then I would get to the next rung and be like, okay, I'm still missing something. Well, then I woke up and thought, my ladder is leaning against the wrong building. Because see, in order for me to fulfill my divine purpose, I can't work for a building that doesn't have my name on it, that doesn't necessarily align with all of my vision and values, that doesn't have my mission statement. So I had to literally drag my ladder and lean it against a building that had my name on it, because my why, getting out of my way, going back to the original question, is my why is my ancestors were told when they could rest. And so I created custom rest sanctuaries so we can nap and rest on demand when we want to, And so we my goal is to demystify this team no sleep. Quite honestly, that's slave mentality. Like, we should be able to rest. The body needs that. And Jay, I can't wait to read your book about it. But that's some of the things that you have to do to get out of your way. Like, what bold move, audacious move. Like, you have to have build up the mitigated gall to do XYZ so you can achieve your goal. Identity was wrapped up into one of them. I was driving the Benz, right? At the time, I can't cash flow a Mercedes-Benz car note when I'm about to quit my job. And I was married at the time, and we have responsibilities. Like, come on now, like, what are you doing? So when I talk about the roadmap to get out of your way, what are you doing to sacrifice so you can set yourself up so you can move forward as humanly as possible? And the other thing that we don't talk enough about is mental health. I was seeing a therapist to help me talk through about my childhood stuff. I had to reparent 8-year-old Khaliah. That moment, I still remember that coach that told me I wasn't good enough and I'll never get a scholarship out of Port Arthur, Texas to go and play D1 basketball. Like, that still was on repeat in my head as a 30-something-year-old. So, like, I literally had, when I talk about get out of my own way, like, that's what I had to do. I had to go sit on someone's couch and admit the things that I would dare not to even admit to myself in the mirror. And once I was able to heal that, then it was like, okay. Because that's the thing. You can't start a business when you're not complete and whole, because then your business won't be complete and whole. And nobody's going to want to do business with you if you're not coming from a full organic place.
You're on mute, Greg.
I just got so caught up there.
Rookie.
That I'm going to introduce you to my daughter at some point in time, because
please,
when you said, I try not, this is not about me, but I swear to God, there are so many boxes. When you said that a coach told you that coming out of here, you'll never play for a D1 school. Well, Jacksonville University is a D1 school. So all of those things, they're just layered. And, the beauty of what you are sharing, and I think most people are intelligent enough to pick it up, but just in case, it's very easy for people to put the conversation that you're bringing here into a very small little cubby hole. Because here's what I heard you say, and I thought it was one of the most powerful things we've heard someone say about, getting out of your own way, is that because I did something similar and it felt weird when I did it, and it probably felt weird when you first did it, is you made where you were working, you turned it into a laboratory for your future.
Absolutely.
So there was a time when you were going there to work as an employee, and then you were like, okay, so y'all are about to finance this. So let me see what
the whole thing.
Yeah, let me see what systems y'all are using. Why do you use that particular software? I mean, every piece of it becomes a laboratory, because now you do what really we would all be well served to do, which is to see where we are, not at the end, but as a means to the next level of where we can go. So I absolutely love that. I mean, I remember doing some of the same stuff. I took less vacation time during that period of time. I had a lot of it, but I shrunk it. And all the vacation I took was to go learn the craft so that when I got out, I'd be, but that's an interesting time, because you can do that silently without a bunch of people knowing, because you
absolutely
actually I became more productive in that window, because I was like, okay, I am milking this cow for everything there is.
Absolutely. It was crazy is that you talk about these transferable skills, like people who are thinking about leaving and shifting, like get everything you can that you don't have to pay for on a company's dime.
That's
Like
exactly
everything you
right.
just talked about, do it. Like I
Yeah.
was, and what's crazy, I told my manager, I said, hey, I'm starting this company because we had to make sure it wasn't a conflict of interest. They actually hired me on to come and speak as I was an employee with the company. So like when we're operating in integrity, like things just magically happen. It's
There's no bigger gift
crazy.
than to be invited back to that place. So, but there's something that I know you did, and I also know that it can come with its own challenges. So you were talking about the ladder being leaning against the wrong wall, and
Hmm.
we kind of figure that out before we do anything about it. But there's at some point in time you got to grab the ladder. And what I
Yeah.
know a lot of people have experienced, you likely experienced it too, is that when you grab that ladder to start trying to move it, there were a bunch of people holding on to that ladder saying, no, you cannot. This ladder, you don't move that ladder over here. Girl, what are you? Those people like you at the bank. They like you over there at that bank. So how did you how did you manage through that? Because everybody you think is going to cheer for you, some of them are
Ooh,
frightened by what you're doing because they sometimes because
ooh.
they want to do what you're doing. I from that woo, I guess I'm hitting something here. So talk about that a little bit.
Oh gosh. So I thought that people would be just as excited about this new idea of nap bar. And then I'm gonna, like silly old me, right? Really a good friend of mine. When I had the epiphany, I was like, oh, this is the thing. I went out to dinner with a friend, my ex-wife, or then wife, ex-wife now. And that's another thing, right? Relationship totally changed. It was
Mhm.
so much to unpack. But
Yeah.
we went out to dinner and I was like excited. She was like, what's new with you? I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna start this nap bar. It's gonna be a place where people go and take a nap in the middle of the day. We'll be inside of corporate buildings, airports, you name it. And like I'm excited about it. I'm passionate about it. And she's like sitting back in her seat. She's like, this is her face. You gonna leave your job at Wells Fargo to for people to pay you to take naps?
Uh-huh.
And in that moment, I decided that I work way too hard to protect my energy. The first 45 minutes of the day is mine. It belongs to Khaliah O, Guillory, meaning that I stretch, I meditate, I pray, I listen to any kind of music that's going to get me going, depending on my mood. It could be trap, it could be gospel, it could be Jay-Z, it could be Sade. It doesn't matter, just whatever I need, right? And so I made a point to where if I'm dedicating this much time to protect my energy, I've got to protect it from outside factors as well. And that was like one of my mottos. I've collected so many mottos along this journey, but one of my biggest one is to protect my creative space and my energy. And basically what that means is that I stopped sharing my vision with folks who didn't have the capacity to understand
Yes.
my greatness. And so that download of NatBar came to me and only me. It was my download. So I couldn't expect for her to understand it or have the same appreciation for it. Now, from a humanistic standpoint and from a friendship, like, yeah, all you got to do is say, oh my God, girl, I don't understand it, but I'm going to share and like your post. Like, that's easy. That don't cost you a thing. But if we can't expect people to understand our greatness because they just don't simply have the capacity to do it. And when I got that, I was like, I'll share it with whoever I see fit that I think is in like-minded energy with me. But other than that, I had to protect my creative space. And I think the other piece of that is the people who are on the top of the ladder, is that I had to remind myself of my why every day. That why is so important because whenever those days where I was like, maybe I'm not making the right decision, like I'm really going to walk away from all this and to do something that's unknown. And I would remind myself of my why. And I would literally affirm in my head, I am a beacon of hope, of rest, and of generational wealth. Because I decided that generational curses are going to die with my parents, and I'm going to birth a generation of wealth. And the wealth I'm talking about, guys, it isn't currency. It's wealth in integrity. It's wealth in generosity. It's wealth in innovation. And in order for me to do that, I can't allow this ladder to stay leaning against this same building. Like I absolutely can't. And my biggest motivation is that my mother died, at 50 years old, and shortly right after I graduated from college. And I had a front row seat to a woman who started in a refinery. I'm from Port Arthur. For most of the people who know, it's a big oil and gas town that's basically all you're going to do. And she started as a janitor. And then when she retired, was forced to retire, she was a supervisor. And so I had an opportunity to get a front row seat and witness what perseverance looks like, to witness what dedication and witness what just unmitigated gall looks like. That's in my DNA. That's my stock in trade. And so how dare I know all the sacrifices that my mother played and allow for myself to play small? Like, I got to play big. I have no choice.
So Khaliah, I'm going to give you a little bit of a gift right now, because I got a gift from someone, and I want you to see something differently. First, I want you to be super thankful for that coach that told you couldn't play D1 basketball. Every single day when you wake up and you meditate, because that coach helped make you who you are. And what I mean by that is you are who you are, but he found a chord in you that was going to drive you. The ex-wife that gave you that look, you should thank her for that look, because that struck a chord in you that made you want. And I know you're protecting your energy, but it's still in the back of your mind. And the reason I'll tell you that is because my entire
but that was a friend. That was a friend. Ex-wife, actually. The ex-wife is a catalyst to NatBart.
Okay. Sorry, I missed that. So,
I want to make sure.
And the reason I'm saying this for people on here is I had the same instance with coaches and my father. My father told me I couldn't do anything. He shot everything down, and it was the biggest gift he could have ever given me. Looking back on it, because I have become the person I am, because, when he said that, I was like, and you got on here saying, about that mask and proving people wrong. But the way you grew up, all of that stuff is what has made you the superb human being that you are right now. It's all been an amazing gift to you. And even though, I agree with you, mental health and understanding all of that, but you are who you are because of everyone that told you that you're not. And,
Totally.
so I just, I'm thankful when somebody tells me I can't, I say, thank you. I really appreciate it, because it's my jet fuel, because I'm going to prove to myself, not to you, I'm going to prove to myself that I can do it, and I'm going to prove that you're wrong. So that's the gift that I want to give you, because when I heard that story, you actually have already taken that gift and you've become this amazing person. So it's not really a gift for me, but just in the process of that coach actually probably helped you along, because it made you work harder by him saying you're never going to play D1. You're like, you know what? I'm going to do everything it takes to make it to D1 and become a team captain. Not only make it to D1, but I am the team captain of my college basketball team. So
before you go, Jay, because I totally get what you're saying, because I think the gift is that these people prepare you for people who look like them later.
Correct. Yep.
But I think you can thank them eventually, because I had a front row seat to a 16-year-old girl that was told the same thing, and she thanks them now. But in that moment, it was like they took her heart and ripped it in two.
That part.
Because and this is, and I don't think this is in conflict with what you're talking about, Jay.
No,
I think it actually is in alignment with it. It
sure is.
It wasn't just that someone did it. It's that for her in that moment, this was not just anybody. This was her coach. This is the person, and it was like a screeching halt, and it was like, what? What? And so that, and because that she had one like that in college too. That was, these people show up, but what the gift is not only that you survived it, but that you can see it coming now. So now when you see somebody else that has that same DNA, you can look at them and go, I've seen you. You are that person, and so they train you for the next, because the further you go up the ladder, the jerks have more skills too. So,
absolutely. So you can spot them quicker too.
Yeah, absolutely. So there is
and for the people listening, or even having your kids listening, I mean, I just think it's key to I understand she didn't see it as a gift, but if we can make people now see it as a gift,
Yes,
and say thank you, because it took me till I was 38
yeah,
from 14. I mean, it's a long time to carry this.
it's
And
a forgiveness
Totally.
play too,
right.
It's
So
a-
if you can look at it differently, whoever's listening, and listen, this is what I tell people too. If you're working for a boss that's a complete and total, what, you learn how not to be to people.
Mhm.
It's a gift.
That's it.
Right? You can learn from people. So my next question to you is, tell me one of the most difficult success building habits that you have every single day, and it's really difficult to stick to this habit every day. What do you do every single day that builds success in your life, but it's the hardest one you do?
It's not even hard anymore. Well, I guess I have two. It's just really putting my armor on, dedicating those first 45 minutes every day, putting my armor on. So when I get out into the world, I know the world is going to attempt to chew me up sometimes, but I already have my armor on. So I know I'm equipped. And I think for me, it becomes a struggle, especially when I'm busy and I have a lot going on. Like today would be the perfect day, where this morning I was tempted because I don't sleep with my phone, so blue light is a real thing. It interrupts all of our sleep patterns and our circadian rhythm. That's a whole nother conversation. But I decided years ago to stop sleeping with my phone because I didn't want to be tempted to scroll aimlessly at night when I'm winding down and preparing my body for rest. And so sometimes, it's intentionally like out of the room. So I have to get out the bed to go and turn the alarm off. But I leave it there and I go back into the bedroom and start my gratitude list and start going through the things I'm thankful for and visualizing what I want my day to look like. But sometimes it's a challenge because I'm like, oh, I know I got all these meetings today. Let me check my email. Let me just check one email and see if someone canceled, or, oh, I gotta meet with that person today. I probably shouldn't do business with them today because I already know they're gonna be in a funky mood. Because all those things start to happen, and I know better because I haven't put my armor on yet to be equipped to deal with those type of things. So I would say that's probably my biggest one. And then time management. I believe in time management. I do not have push notification on my phone. I check my emails 3 times throughout the day, and sometimes the interns will pop in just to make sure everything is good. So I've done these things intentionally because I've noticed when I shifted to full-time entrepreneurship is that the days, like I was like, oh, I'm gonna have all these hours in the day. And it was like, well, what did I do today? Oh, I was responding to emails and I responded to folks on Instagram and I was doing all these things, but I didn't literally work on the business. I was working in it. So like, what am I gonna do? And so I created boundaries. Boundaries are a thing, not just with relationships, but in relationship to myself. I had to establish some boundaries because I read what, most successful people do. And as they wake up early, they're not constantly checking their email. They have they believe in the timer model. They subscribe to that where, okay, I'm gonna give myself 20 minutes to check my email. And I do the same thing. So right after I'm done putting my armor on, I do all my posts that aren't scheduled or I'll respond, but I give myself 20 minutes and I hold myself accountable by every day. I look and see, okay, how much was your screen time today, to make sure that I'm not spending too much time with that. So for me, it's being intentional about my time, being intentional about what I do first thing in the morning. Because if I feel like I dedicate that time to myself, then I will be able to give to the rest of the world. It's not a selfish thing to put ourselves first. When we travel, they tell us, be sure to put your oxygen mask on first before you help anybody else. So I can't pour from a half full cup. And I'm an optimistic. I'm a true Scorpio, October Scorpio. And I believe that the glass is always full. It's always half full, always. And so in order for me to be and operate and perform at my optimum capacity, I got to make sure that Khaliah is good.
So amongst the things, so I had to tell you, first of all, when I heard the concept of nap bar, I had everything I needed at that point, because I am the grown-up that still feels that part of my mission is to take every nap I fought as a child.
This is for you, Greg. This is for you.
There you go. Thank you. That's exactly.
That is awesome.
That is beyond awesome.
That is so awesome.
I'm gonna for real. I'm getting one of those. I'm not playing. But I am fortunately one of those people that can take a nap at 5 o'clock and get up at 7 and then go to sleep at 9:30. I am a true nap. It does not interrupt.
That is you.
I can fall asleep on the plane before it takes off.
That's called narcolepsy.
And no, I'm aware of it. No, I'm not actually. But one of the things that so I'm involved in more enterprises now than I was, 3 or 4 years ago. And one of the things that was a regular thing for me every single day, I get up much earlier now, but a nap every day was a serious thing for me. I mean, and everybody in my world knew it. And it's really funny because when I started meeting people that were busier than me, Jay, that it was almost for me, you were talking about scheduling that time. Like I knew every day what time I was going to take a nap. And
oh yeah.
And and it's funny. So I'm telling the world this is me now, Khaliah. I'm just
you see the mask is off, bro. Let's go.
I've been wearing this mask, because there were meetings I couldn't take. They're like, you want to meet round 2? I was like, I'm gonna
no.
I got something to
I already have an appointment. I already got an appointment.
I got something to do. So I'm just curious, because I think there's a lot of us nap people wearing masks and going out to our car, out to the parking deck and hoping nobody catches us and stuff. So the idea of doing something or setting an entire enterprise around something that I think most of us would kill to do, but don't want anybody to know that we're doing. How do you pitch that to, Mercedes-Benz Stadium in, in Atlanta? What does that sound like? Because it has to be no one else is pitching this the way. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, you're a pioneer here. I mean, you're kind of the first, ship off the off the assembly line. What's it like to take an idea that is so unique and so different? Not even, I mean, there are places in the airports where you can go and get on the internet and do stuff. Some of them have a little bed in them and that kind of thing, but not where the express purpose is for you to rest. How do you tell somebody about an idea that is so unique and different and far afield from what most people have ever thought about? How do you start that conversation?
Before I even start the conversation, I tell them how it came about, because I know from a human standpoint, people are always curious, like how did you even come up with this idea? Because then they can see, I paint a story so they can see themselves in it, right? Because I already know 75% of Americans are napping. That's in car garages, their car, unused conference rooms, you name it, they're napping somewhere. And I know this because I dedicated 10,000 hours of research. Per Malcolm Gladwell, he said you got to dedicate 10,000 hours if you want to become a certified subject matter expert in anything. And so I share with them the journey, right? And the journey, the quick Cliff Notes version is that my then wife, now ex-wife, we were commuting into the city, both had side hustles, and it was around my nap time, Greg. 3 o'clock is my nap time. And I looked at her, I said, I got a dilemma. And she's like, what? And I was like, well, we live 45 minutes away. It's about nap time and you're in a car. And that would be kind of weird, don't you think? She was like, hey, it's Houston. Google naps in Houston. There should be a place where you can just pop in, pop out. I was like, you're right. Houston is the city to do this. 30 seconds later, I looked at her with this whole oh my God, this is so crazy. Can you believe that no such a thing exists here in Houston? They had a couple on the East Coast at the time. And she looked at me and said, okay, well, you should create it. And I was like, no adults are actually napping, not like me. I'm sure of it. She was like, I bet you they are. So I was like, okay, whatever. So we went on about the day. That night, couldn't sleep, tossed and turned, woke up, went into the office and started doing research. And I was like, I ran across this NASA stat and I said, oh, the light bulb is going off now. NASA did a study on sleepy military pilots and astronauts, and they found that a 26-minute nap increased their productivity by up to 34%, alertness by 54%. I almost had to stop myself from hollering. I was like, oh, that's why all this time I've been super productive, because I've been taking these naps. Like, done. I'm like, the dog is in the office with me. It's like the middle of the night. And I'm like, girl, we just got it. So this might be it. And so the next morning I went to Facebook and I surveyed my friends. I said, okay, friends, how many of you guys, honestly, this will be anonymous, but how many of you taking naps? 99.9% of them raised it. They said, yeah, I'm taking a nap. And I said, okay, well, if there was this cool place, it was a safe haven for you to stop napping in your car or in the parking garage or wherever, would you go if it was on site inside of your corporate building or you had to go around the corner? That's like either or. I was like, how much would you pay for said naps? They told me. I said, what else would you want there? Aromatherapy? You want a massage? Like, what do you want? And literally in a month's time, I had a whole business plan, and it was based on not just what Khaliah wanted, but what the masses wanted. And I knew that our social mission and our social impact is to solve the 411 billion, I'm saying billion dollar US economic loss due to sleep deprivation. That's it. And then from there, it was like go time. So the idea dropped April 2018. We were in beta test April 2019. I retired from corporate America in November 18, and then beta tested, started for 5 months, April 2019. So I share that with people whenever I'm pitching them. You know, for Mercedes, it was easy. I go to their pain points. I share the story, and I talk about how I asked the person that I'm pitching, how many hours are you up to working today? Like, what's your number? You know, because most people know how long they've been working, right? He's like, oh, it's Wednesday. I probably already put in at least 60 hours. I was like, whoa, man, you got 2 more days to go. That's crazy. What about your people? He was like, probably the same. I said, man, imagine if they could actually take a rest at work. And I said, imagine your employees or your customers. You know, in Mercedes-Benz dealership, I said, I know I've owned a Benz before. You go into service, the service takes 4 to 5 hours. Sometimes you guys have loaner cars, sometimes you don't. So you're trapped at the actual dealership, or you got to bum a ride on someone. And I said, what if there was a shuttle bus, a Sprinter van, a Mercedes Sprinter that was dedicated to load up your customers sitting in the lobby, so that now their actual wait time they don't know how long they've been waiting, because now they're outside of the dealership and they're not in your hair asking you every 5 minutes, like, how much longer for my car? How much longer for my car? You shuttle them over to nap bar, get them a nap, and then you shuttle them back. Like, it's a no-brainer. And then by the time they're back, they only had like maybe a 20, 30-minute wait. And the guy was like, that will help drive our customer experience scores. I was like, yeah, it sure will. So we talk about KPIs. I talk the talk. I use my corporate speak. It's transferable skills. I believe in KPIs. I believe in you measure it, it'll grow. So I believe in metrics, and I believe in showing people results. And we've done a slew of beta tests and litmus tests and business cases. We partnered with UT Health. So depending on who I'm talking to, we're talking to hospitals right now. I share with them the results from the UT Health business case that we did. Like, hey, here are the results that we can guarantee that you will receive, because we've already done it before with this population and this demographic. So for me, it's just a matter of time. Like you said, Greg, I'm first to the stage. This is still an unheard of ideology of a business plan. Our culture is braggadocious and, hey, I only slept 2 hours last night, and look at me, I got all the work done. Yeah, but your brain didn't get the proper repair that it needed. It didn't get the proper rest that it needed to repair. It didn't download any of the memories. So all that work you did, you probably won't remember tomorrow because your brain didn't download.
Well, you just gave, there's 2 gifts you just gave there. One is, that's amazing, first of all. But anyone listening or watching this just got a clinic in sales training. That was a clinic that you just put on, because you started with them and you put them in the story. I mean, Jay and I both have insurance agencies. That's one of the gigs that we have. Jay has a number of other ones too. But if you can get people, it's what I used to tell people, get them to try it on. Just get them to try it on. And if it fits when they try it on, they'll buy it. But so often we do it in reverse. We do, and it never works. So if you can do this and I'd say this with loving respect, but still totally freaked out that this is such an awesome thing that you're doing. If you
I'm still freaked out too, Greg.
If you can sell a nap bar, if you can sell nap bar with fundamental skills that start with understanding why and then putting people in the picture, nobody else has an excuse to be able to not move whatever idea that they're trying to move forward. You just do it the right way. So thank you for that. That was awesome.
Absolutely. Thank you.
So Khaliah, I one of the things I want to go back to, because we went over it really, really fast. And I think it's all, besides sleep, I think the second most critical thing is me time. And I remember when people used to say me time. And I remember when I was young and I was in love and someone would say, I need some me time. I'd be like, what's wrong? Wait, I can't hang out with you? Like, why you need some
What's
me
up?
time? Right. So
what's your sign, Jay? What's your sign? What's your horoscope?
Cancer. Yeah. So I was offended by me time. And then I figured out like 3 years ago, me time in the morning for me, which is 2.5 hours a day that I take every day. I meditate, I read for an hour, I work out for an hour. So I put 55 hours a month into me, which makes me a better version of me for everyone. And I think everyone listening to that, I mean, even if it's 45 minutes or 20 minutes or 30 minutes, but taking that time in the morning is the second key to success, I think, because you need that time to be you. So I'm so glad that you're such, I see why you're successful, because you're really, really smart. I mean, you have the sleep thing down and the me time thing down, like those habits. And then the time management habit, I think is really, really key. And we don't have time because I want to ask you some more questions, but I think I want to have you back on and I want to talk about time management with you, because I think time management is such a key element to success. And it's, you were able only to go so far. Like I manage this and I don't do this, but I think time management, there's been so many books written on it. But I would be interested to know in the future, maybe we can do a time management session on what you do and what your day looks like and how you kind of cut your day up and all that. So I love that you said time management. So I love this question, and I know I'm gonna love the answer to this question from you, because I know you've thought about it because of your past and because of what you think of the future. And I gotta say, before I go any further, Khaliah, your energy is out of this freaking world.
Come on, don't gassing me up, man.
No, I'm serious. I love your energy. I can tell you are an athlete. Like I love. I have chills the whole time I'm talking, just because everything you speak with is passion and conviction. And I think that's another reason why you have success. That's why you went up the corporate ladder, because other people saw that in you. And I think that's going to take your business to the stratosphere, because, what Greg said is being able to sell, but being able to sell is believing in yourself. And that's what I see in you, is you believe in yourself, you believe in your mission, you believe in everything that you're talking about. It bleeds out of you. And by the time you're done talking to you, even if I didn't think that was a business, I'm just like, shit, that's a good business.
So let me get my checkbook.
And what I'm thinking about is Shark Tank. Yeah. Right? Like, I mean, the people that go on there that have passion and believe in their product, sometimes when they start talking about the product, I'm like, I don't think that really has. And by the end, I'm like, shit, that's a great idea. And you have that gift. So that's what I want people to hear on here is, anybody can sell, but to sell convincingly, you got to believe. And I love how much you believe, and I love your energy. It's just so contagious. I'm so jacked up after this podcast talking to you. But my question is, obviously playing D1 basketball, having the childhood that you have, and, wanting to prove to you first that you are worthy, and then prove to others that they are not worthy. To even make statements that they've made to you. Yeah. We all here want to leave a legacy. I know I do. Like I have 3 girls, 2 young girls. I have a 2-month-old and a 3-year-old. And for me right now, thank you. For me right now, my legacy for them, I'm on stage every day. And what I want to leave with them is what drives me every single day to get up and be a better version of me. But for you, if something was to happen and you were to leave this planet, what would 3 things that you would want to be known for and you would want to leave all of us humans here on earth that we should live our life by?
Oh, I love that question. What's resonating right now is the love of humanity. I literally have friends that reflect the entire world. I have atheists that are my best friends. I have folks who don't look like me, don't come from where I come from, don't think the way I think. I think if we truly, this world would be in a completely different place if we really just got down to the fact that I love humans and humans love me. And I understand we got things in the middle to talk about and discuss. I get that too. And with my human friends and my friends that are in my circle who don't look like me, we have very passionate conversations about everything that's going on in the world right now. And even that went on in the world last year with the whole Black Lives Matter. I mean, we've had so many deep conversations, and we can have intelligent conversations without it going sideways, because at the end of the day, the baseline of our relationship is that we love each other. And we love each other for who we are and what we are and who we are and what we stand for. I love my atheist friend just as much as I love my Bible thumping friend, because that's just who they are, right? And so that I would definitely want to be known as Khaliah loved everybody. She loved humanity, and she led with kindness. I also want to be known as, this came from a friend of mine, Michelle Ngame. She was on my podcast that I did a couple of years ago. And she said, I've committed to dying empty. And I said, well, tell me more about that. And the concept is, if you commit to die empty, that means that all of your dreams are realized. They've already been manifested. So when you take your last breath, they're out in the world. So you can die empty, knowing that everything that you were set out to do is not in a graveyard with you. It's in the world for generations and centuries to come. Like, bam, like that's it. Like that really sums up everything, right? Like, I want to die empty and be known for someone who leads with generosity. And I think sometimes people, I've answered this question a couple of times, and sometimes it's a little different, because I think sometimes the guys aren't cool like you guys and they want it to be something around business. Because notice I didn't say anything about business.
Right.
And I think the last piece for me is, the third one is to allow for, is to really be the catalyst to birth new generations of wealth and allow generational curses to die. It's got to stop, and it's got to start and end with me. From corporate America, we talk a lot about start, stop, continue. Well, the curse has got to stop. I will start the rebirth, and I will continue this legacy that I owe to my ancestors and the lineage to move this forward. When I think about all the things they had to sacrifice for me to even be in this situation right now, and that wasn't that many years ago. We really are clear about it. That wasn't that long ago when this wouldn't have happened.
It's so crazy, right? When you think about it, like even in my lifetime, and Greg and I did a podcast around this, because obviously I have not witnessed or been a part of going through what you guys have. So, I although I grew up super poor, it still was, it just wasn't a thing that I was around where I grew up. I went to an 80% Black school, but that was the norm, right? So I didn't know all this stuff existed.
Same here.
So it's crazy that it was such a short time ago that, even shit in the 70s when I was born, it was a thing, like it was a thing. But I didn't know it to be a thing, because I was, it was normal for me. So yeah. And I love that. Because that's a why. Mm-hmm. That's a purpose. It
always is going back to the why. Yeah. It's always about the why. And you're talking about you weren't exposed, like my buddy Kylie Summers says, exposure expands our expectations, right? And when we have a bigger expectation and we see really what it is, then we can put ourselves in it. Like, this is it. This is where I want to go. And I think we didn't really touch on this, but I think sponsors and mentors are extremely important for any type of journey you're going through in life. My motto is really, why duplicate mediocrity when you could borrow genius? And so I have so many mentors, and now have turned sponsors, and sponsors who have turned into family members, because I sit at their feet and I literally learn from them. And I think the other thing is I'm open to it, like that goes back to getting out of your way. You don't know everything. You might think you do, but you don't. And don't be afraid to raise your hand and be vulnerable and say, hey, you know what? I don't understand what you're talking about. Can you help me understand this a little better? And also changing that relationship with fear. Fear will paralyze you, but if you use it as an ally, it'll catapult you. So you got to pick and choose what you want to do. We always have a choice. It's up to us to choose it.
Can you repeat that? Why duplicate mediocrity when you can
borrow genius?
Borrow genius. Love it.
That is oh my goodness. That gave me chills. But it's real.
I'm borrowing your guys' genius. I'm borrowing your genius right now. I'm soaking it up. And it doesn't have to be the living. I borrow genius from the dead all the time. Like, I'm reading so many books of people who have passed on, and I'm learning so much from them as if they're still here. You know, so we can learn from everyday people. I've learned something from you guys today. So,
well, Jay doesn't hear that much, so I'm glad.
That's true. That's true. That's very true. Appreciate it. My these headphones are expanding. I can't even hardly even fit. It's like hurt my ears. So, hey, Khaliah, I'm gonna do some rapid questions with you real quick. And
okay.
we're gonna wrap this. So you just hit on one of the ones that I was gonna ask, and I haven't told Greg, but we kind of evolved this podcast a little bit. Week after week after week. And it's from me listening to other great people doing podcasts. And so some of these questions I kind of ask and expand on, but I'm going to do it quick. And the reason I'm asking this question is because I think that the mentors or the coaches in our life don't get the credit that they're due. So what I like to do on this podcast is start, allowing people to speak about those people. So first question is, who was your biggest mentor and why? Just quickly.
Joseph Wesley Roberts, my grandfather, who raised me as if I was his own. I'll never forget. It was the summer of me going into my senior year in high school. And it was like 1:00 in the afternoon. I was sleeping. And he came in and he's like, he's Creole. He's from Louisiana. He said, "Baby, what are you doing?" I was like, "Sleeping?" Like, I'm looking at him like, "Come on, you know what I'm doing." He was like, the girl that you're going to compete with this fall come basketball season is already at the gym. She's already 100 free throws in. What are you doing? Don't you ever let anybody outwork you. And in that moment, I jumped up. My shoes were laced. I was in the car ready. I was ready to go. Like, he never had to tell me anything else. And it's just the discernment. I think my discernment that I got, the wisdom that I have now is definitely from my grandfather. He was a World War II vet, 5th grade education, managed to be a homeowner. He put 2 kids through private school. I mean, that's my stock in trade, So he was my mentor. He still is. I still reflect. He passed on, but I still reflect back on conversations we've had because I needed him for this moment in time. Like, he didn't have to be here. That's why he was giving me all these tools when I was 10 and I didn't understand what he was talking about.
That's a great story. So like we talked about before, success is like a snowflake. There's no snowflake the same. And why we do this podcast is because we want to reach a big audience, meaning your level of success is, maybe unreachable for other people. Maybe they don't want that level of success, and their definition of success might be different, and it's okay. Like, I feel like humanity should never judge anyone's success or what they feel like. If it's, if you want to make $100,000 a year and you want to have 4 weeks paid vacation, then, that's what makes you happy. I'm all for it. But what is your definition of success? And it changes, right? Success can change next week. It can change next month, next year. But right now, today, what does the definition of success mean for you? Like, what does that definition of success look like for you?
So I'll approach it from what it define, the definition of it, and then what it looks like for me. So the definition for me, I subscribe from Oprah, right? She doesn't know it, but like, she's my auntie, my big sister, all the things. And she speaks of success as an opportunity meeting preparation that equals success. Cause I don't buy into the ideology of luck. I don't subscribe to that, but I do believe that when you are prepared and there's an opportunity coming your way, when it clashes, that's when you get the success. And for me, what that looks like is being able to go on a trip once a month. Being able to travel. I'm an avid traveler. And prior to COVID, my commitment to myself when I started Nat Bar was once a month, I will take myself on a 2 to 3 day vacation. I don't know where it's going to be. I don't know how, but I'm committing to this. And so to me, that's success. If I can give myself some me time, and this is normally by myself, I'm traveling by myself to escape and unplug. I'm not on social. I'm not doing anything with electronics. I call the people that I love. Hey, I'll be off the radar for a couple of days. I'll be back. Success looks to me just having healthy relationships with other people and being able to communicate my boundaries and respect their boundaries. Success for me looks like being able to choose who I do business with. Right. There are some people who come down the pipe and probably would have been some really good capital injections for us, but I chose not to do business with them because they didn't align with my vision and values or the culture of my business. And just being able to successfully say no to someone. Success, that's another one. Success and saying no. No, N-O. I say oftentimes, I did a talk a couple of days ago, you got to turn on your no. See what I did there? You got to turn on your no.
I did.
And
I saw that. I'm tracking right along with you.
I'm like so giddy about it. I was like so proud of myself because I never come up with anything witty and clever like that. So I was like, ooh, I'm telling everybody. And if they don't get it, I'm gonna tell them. You saw it? I do like a little hand sign. So, turn it on your no. Like, it's okay to say no. There's success in saying no. This doesn't align with me. Nope, can't do it. Success is having Nat Bar in airports everywhere in the whole world, going to a WNBA, an NBA, an MLB, a hockey game, and being able to go before the game starts. If you just fought traffic, like mad traffic like it is here in Houston, and take a 20-minute nap so you can be ready for game time. That's success. Success for me is getting to bed at a reasonable time and going through my bedtime rituals. Like, all those things are successful.
Okay.
So successful.
What are the bedtime rituals? Sorry, that's just an added question because I need to know.
I got you, man. I would rattle them off. So I start with nourishing on myself. This is another me time, right? So I was thinking like 2.5 hours. Yeah, that's about right. So I break mine up, right? So every night I take a bath, literally every night. I'm not taking a bath unless I'm in a hotel. If I'm not taking a bath in someone else's tub. But if I'm home,
I feel you all the way. Like, listen, for me, the mask thing is not that bad. I'm okay with it because people ain't coughing on me, so I'm good. I ain't gonna get sick, and I ain't gonna take a bath in no hotel bath. That ain't ever gonna happen. Never. I'm not gonna get my dog a bath in a hotel bathtub.
I love it.
See, you good, man.
I love it.
So ritual, taking a bath. I light candles. I put on vinyls. I'm a vinyl connoisseur. So this week I've been on, I think I played Maze last night. Sade. I played Sade on vinyl last night. And then, having my candles, I have pillow mist. There's a Nat Bar exclusive pillow mist that we offer now. That was one of our pivots during COVID to the Better Sleep Box. And then, I spray out my pillow mist on my pillow. I read, I journal, I go through the things that made me happy. One of my acts of kindness. So I challenge myself every day to do something nice for somebody. And then I journal it. My therapist told me to journal it so I can remember on those days that it's like a brag book when I'm feeling down, like, hey, you're a good person. Keep on going. The second piece is I have nighttime tea. Chamomile, hibiscus, those are my go-tos. Fennel sometimes if I'm just feeling I want to feel a little risky. Have a little fennel tea.
your wild side selection. Okay.
My wild side is coming out. I might go over to the fennel. And then I, listening to some soundscapes, just some meditation music. I'll visualize. I'll do some visualization exercises. A weighted blanket is my thing because, I'm someone who I mentioned suffers from moments of depression. So those weighted blankets help with the stress and anxiety, and it also helps you feeling protected so you can stay asleep and you can fall asleep quickly and stay asleep, making sure my temperature is between 65 and 68 degrees, keep it cool. I do all the things. And so the nighttime is mine. And I tell people, like, all right, gotta go. It's time for me to start my bedtime ritual. My alarm will go off. And I was like, oh, I know our conversation is done. That's bedtime ritual alarm, right? I was like,
yep. That's why you get to come back later. That's it. Because you understand.
Because
It's so good because I don't think most people don't do the morning. Most people don't do the night. And I think the mistake most people make is that phone thing. I know I get caught up in it because I'm catching up or whatever. And
all of us do.
My wife, the first thing she does when she wakes up is she looks at her phone. And the last thing she does before she goes to bed is she's looking at her phone. And it's hard because if I tell her I'm not trying to be her daddy and tell her what to do. So I'm trying to find an avenue because I just want to help her, because I think that it causes a problem for her. And, Greg, I mean, he knows that I have a morning ritual, but every morning he sends me a freaking text every single morning because he has a morning journal time of where he's making his to-do list. And then I'm on that like 6:30, 7:30 a.m. Carl, I'm just saying this, Greg, so maybe you stop sending me those texts.
It won't happen. It won't happen. I just assume you won't look at it until you have time.
Oh, I don't respond. I don't respond even though sometimes I want to respond. I don't respond till 9. Yes. I'm just like you ain't get.
He's gonna respect your boundaries.
This is my me time. Now don't mess with my me time.
I send it so I won't forget.
No, I know. I decided to mess with you, Greg. And then top 3 recommended books that you've read that's been life altering for you.
Hands down, The Alchemist. Hands down. I've read it a couple of times, and every time I read it, I get something different from it. A lot of people relate to it because most people hear the whole phrase, the universe will conspire on your behalf. That came from The Alchemist. The second book is The 4 Agreements. It's Miguel Ruiz. That is one of my go-tos. And what's my third one? In the Meantime by Iyanla Vanzant. It really helped me. It really helped me be cool with being me. You know, post-divorce, I was with my ex-wife for a decade. We were married nearly 5 years. And I found myself like always wanting companionship and wanting to be around people. And then that was one of my biggest things that I had to relearn is like, you got to be okay, girl, with being by yourself. It's all right. It's okay. And enter a whole new realm of healing. In that book, In the Meantime, oh man, look at it on the ticker. You guys are so fancy. It was just amazing. And because it helped me again, get out of my way. Because we're always going to be in our way. I don't want people to think like, oh, KG's not in her way anymore. I got to remind myself to get out of my way every day. Some days is every moment of the day.
Multiple times, yeah.
Multiple times, yeah, because I committed, guys, in 2017, it was a doozy of a year in corporate America. And you guys cut me off if I need to. I know we're probably at our time, but I committed to no longer having bad days. I committed to having bad moments throughout the day. And some days I might have a gazillion bad moments, but I never will say, oh my God, I had a bad day. Because as Jay had mentioned earlier, it's a gift. Even those moments that were challenging in that day, we still built a character. We still were able to understand that we could overcome and solve and problem solve. That it was a gift. Might not feel good, but you know, I don't have bad days, and it's just a mindset. It's a reverse engineering of what was been force fed down our throats by society, looking through these manufactured labels that weren't even prescribed for us.
So good. I don't think we haven't read The Alchemist in our book club, right?
No, we have not. We do have a book club, and The 4 Agreements is definitely one of the
that was a great book.
Favorite.
Yeah,
all-time favorite
for sure.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And so, last question: who have you learned from or followed closely this year?
Ooh, follow closely this year.
Oprah Winfrey, I already wrote because you said that was your
Oprah definitely is one of them. That's my aunt, sister, soul, spirit animal. I've heard that she doesn't like to be referred to as like auntie, so let's just say spirit animal, just in case she's watching this. Hey, Oprah. You know, I've learned from. I learned from strangers. I learned from just randos, and I don't say randos in a rude way. Just random people. I could be flipping through a podcast when I'm in a car. I'm rarely listening to the radio. I usually put on a podcast.
But is there anybody that intentionally, like on social media or a podcast that moves you that we should be tuning into, or people listening should be tuning into?
Oh, let's see. Off the top of my head. Yeah. His name is Muji. Isn't that a cute name? It's called because he does these Muji minutes. Let me see. Let me give you the handle for sure. Okay, that's good. Let me give you guys like who I can give you like this is my go-to. This is part of some of I'm putting my armor on. So I'm really inspired by spirituality, by skymates, by all that thing. I grew up Catholic. I went to Catholic school. I was the first altar girl in my diocese. I say religion is my foundation, but spirituality is my growth. And so I often find myself gravitating more towards spiritual folks, and they are definitely inspiring me. So thank you for that, for pushing me more to think about it. His name is Mooji, Mooji. And he comes up with these most thought-provoking ideologies around self and relationships and just who you are in the world. I'm into this guy. I think this page is Know the Zodiac. So they have some really good information that comes out, especially around new moons and your zodiac and how it relates and like your energy and some of the things that you might be feeling during the shifts of the moon. And then this one is, what's the name of this site? Moon Omens. Moon Omens is another one that I closely get inspired by. Oh, and the pattern. The pattern is like an app, and you put in your birthday, and it basically gives you a download about like who you are as a person. And at first, I was like, "How are you gonna know? Like, how are you gonna know?" And I started like reviewing it, and I was like, "Ooh." Who's watching me? Is Big Brother on my phone? Like, how did you know? How do you know?
Your big setup.
This?
Somebody is setting you up.
I've been set up, yeah. And so those are definitely my inspirations for sure, because I know I'm on a spiritual journey, and that propels me into the next realm of creativity and thoughtfulness and kindness and all the things that I desire to be in the world.
So I have to tell you, Khaliah, I've interviewed a lot of people for jobs, and I've talked to a lot of people on podcasts, and just I ask a lot of questions in general from strangers and people that I meet. And when I interview when I interview someone for a job, the way that I interview them is I look at that person that's talking to me as I was a customer to them, and would I buy from them? Would they be able to sell me something? And the way that I evaluate each podcast at the end for me is, how do I feel at the end of this as someone listening, not as someone interviewing or asking the question? And I got to tell you, I feel really good after interviewing you. It's been one of my favorites. And I feel like I say it a lot, but really the way I feel, I've had angel bumps or chill bumps or whatever you want to call them a couple of times through because of the passion and energy. So I want to thank you for that. The second thing I want to thank you for is the transparency, because you didn't have to tell us half of what you told us in the beginning. And also when you talked about mental health and you talked about being depressed sometimes. And I think a lot of people have that feeling and they're going through those things, and you made it okay that you're not the only one out there dealing with it. And you've given some people some tools to be able to overcome that. And someone as energetic, enthusiastic, and as successful as you can still have that. It's okay.
Totally.
Just got to find a way and talk to someone and battle it. And so I want to thank you for that, because I think a lot of people listening to that are probably going through exactly the same thing that all of us go through. So thank you for that. And I'm just inspired after listening to you. I'm motivated. I'm ready to conquer this evening with my kids. I'm ready to conquer tomorrow and all the ventures that I'm in. So thank you for that. And Greg, I don't know if you want to say anything, but before I wrap up with the ingredients.
I do. So my thank you is similar, but it's a little different. And that is because, Jay was just talking about your transparency and you're willing to share and be open. But we've never met before this podcast, but I am pretty sure that you don't waste transparency and honesty. You don't. It's not something that you just roll around on the dessert tray unless you think you're talking to somebody who can handle it, one, and who can appreciate it, two. So I happen to know somebody a lot like you, and it's not that it's not always there, but I ain't wasting it on nobody. Okay, because I have a finite amount of it, and if you can't handle it, I can't be, peace. I'll even do you a favor and do something nice for you, but we ain't gonna be here all night if you don't.
Totally.
So thank you for that. The other thing is, you said it, and I just want to swing back around because nothing is accidental in this world. I'm a very spiritual person too, and I know that there's alignment. And so I look at videos. I'm on YouTube every single morning looking at videos, and turned out that the one I looked at this morning was Oprah and not Ayanla Van Zandt, but she was talking to,
Gail?
no, not Gail, our poet laureate. Oh, I cannot believe, not a current poet laureate. I'm talking about, oh my God.
You got it, Greg. Come on, keep coming. It's coming.
Greg, we're live.
No, I know. And look, yeah, I know. So he is so
It'll come to you.
Yes. Well, you when people tell you who they are, believe them. Shoot. But anyway,
I feel like I know who that is
know who
too.
this is, too.
It was
you know
Lola.
now I get it. It was her. She was
Maya
Angelou.
Angelou. Thank you,
Angelou.
So
yes, I was like, I am woman.
Yes. Ancestors, please forgive me. But the video, she was talking about the best advice Oprah had ever received from Maya Angelou, and it was about keeping a place in you that is pristine and untouchable, and guarding it with every bit of energy you have. And the only way you can do that successfully is you have to be okay with telling people no. Yeah. And so often when we're talking about success, it's like getting to yes, and how do we get to yes? And sometimes we're not supposed to be trying to get to yes. If yes does not protect that pristine part of me that I have fought my life for. When you say you go on vacation by yourself, people don't understand maybe how big a deal that is, regardless of the life you've lived. But that you can be okay with just you and Khaliah and no electronics, doesn't really matter where it is, but that you are intentional about it and protecting that pristine space that so often so many of us allow to be violated because we want to be liked, or we want to be accepted, or we want to be treasured or valued or popular or famous. Sometimes the most powerful word that you talked about turning on is no. And I don't know that we've heard that in the podcast that we've done so far, but that's huge. And it takes a lot of courage to do it. But the return on that investment is fantastic. So thank you for the gift, all of the gifts, because you dropped a lot of stuff on us today. I'm going to have to go back and look at this one again. And,
well, speaking of, I don't usually start off the ingredients of Khaliah's success with an excuse. But there was a lot of knowledge that I was writing fast, so there might be a couple things.
Oh, here we go.
I don't.
He can't read his handwriting. It's always.
I've been pretty good lately, but there was she would say some things back to back, and I was just like, oh crap. And then I started my shorthand, and then I don't really understand some of my shorthand now.
Hashtag penmanship. Hashtag penmanship. I'm telling you what's going on, Khaliah.
So these are
the T. The T is really a P. That P is really a T.
So these are the ingredients for Khaliah's success. And the first one that came out of you that I think is really good is discipline. And then the second one that we talked about was get out of your own way. And then don't wear a mask. Always be your authentic self. Stop the stories. Show up as you are. Head down and grind. Tackle all of your intentions. Decide if your why is big enough to get you out of your own way. Sacrifice. Get out of debt. Don't follow society. Satisfaction doesn't match your contribution. Mental health is very important. Why duplicate mediocrity when you can borrow genius? Joseph Wesley Roberts, your grandfather, was your greatest mentor. And the reason why is because he taught you to never let anyone outwork you. Protect your energy, which I think is so good. Don't share your vision with people that don't understand your greatness, don't understand the capacity of your greatness. Me time, don't ever sacrifice it. Time management. Create boundaries, which I think is really good. And a lot of people have a problem, which is kind of what you just talked about, Greg, boundaries around no. Opportunity and being prepared equals success. Your definition of success is traveling when you want to travel, having healthy relationships, and choose who you do business with. And last but not least, which I thought was really good, that I'm not going to lie, it kind of flew over my head at first until you did the whole hand flip thing, to turn on no.
I told y'all that's why I do it. I gotta make sure. I'm only gonna be witty once a decade. Once a decade, I'll be witty. So I gotta make sure people get it.
Let me tell you why he didn't get it, Khaliah, because he did not take a nap.
That's right. I didn't. Actually, I don't nap. I meditate every day. So it usually kind of turns into a nap. It turns into a nap sometimes.
Two different things.
Which my instructor said, that just means you need sleep. So you don't feel bad about it.
Emoji. There's emoji.
That one. This one right here.
Your legacy, which you want to leave here on earth, is to love all of humanity, die empty, do everything you want, and be a catalyst to generate wealth for everyone. Your nighttime ritual, which I think is really good. I think a lot of people miss because they're just rushing to bed and don't have a system. And I think everything in life has to be a system, because that's what's going to give you the most production. Is you take a bath with candles, vinyls, you have pillow mist, you read and write in your journal. You have a nighttime tea, visualization, and you set the temperature 65 to 68. And
weighted blanket. There's a
weighted blanket. That's right.
Weighted blanket.
I couldn't read that.
And mood lighting.
Yeah.
I didn't mention mood lighting, but mood lighting is a part of it too.
And don't touch your phone and put it in another room, I guess, is also a process that you do. And then there's no such thing as a bad day. I just have bad moments.
I love that.
The 3 most recommended books, The Alchemist, 4 Agreements, and In the Meantime. And who have you learned from in the past year? Oprah, Strangers, which, to be honest with you, that's my favorite one, because that's who I learned the most from. I just like to observe people and watch what I wouldn't do, or how I would not want to come across. Muji, Know the Zodiac, Moon something. I can't read it. I wrote that one fast. What was it? Moon what?
Moonman. I got you.
Moon. Okay, and the pattern. So hey, listen, that was pretty good for writing fast.
I forgot Maya Angelou. That was a much bigger. That was a much bigger.
Yeah, you lost a lot of points there.
Yeah, I know,
my friend. So that, my friends, is the ingredients for Khaliah, and I really, really appreciate and I'm humbled to be in the same space as you and have gotten to meet you. So thank you for taking an hour and 38 minutes with us and sharing your story. And now we all understand your glory.
Oh, guys, man, I love you guys. I had so much fun.
Yes, and we're looking forward to having you back, because you got more to give, and we are. We want to share you. We want to share you with the world.
I'm open to it. Just let me know when and where.
All right.
Thank you, Khaliah.
I'm going to go take a nap now.